Hi, and welcome to Reading with Ms. Momo. I'm so glad that you could join me today. This will be the last of the fairy tales that I will be reading. This is another Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, but it's adapted to be something a little different. Remember, we've been reading all month different fairy tales, and I've constantly told you that all fairy tales have a plot, a setting, and characters, and usually began once upon a time or something kind of like that, and they usually end in happily ever after. This one's going to take a little bit different turn, and it's adapted according to the way this author wanted to adapt it. I hope that you write a fairy tale adaptation of your own, and I want you to listen to this one. Maybe you will get some fun ideas. Okay, join me now as we read The Emperor Penguin's New Clothes by Janet Perlman. This is an adaptation of The Emperor's New Clothes, and this one's going to be The Emperor Penguin's New Clothes. So join me now as we see what the penguin does. There once was an emperor penguin who was so fond of fine clothes that he spent nearly all of his money on them. He had different outfit for every hour of the day, and if it didn't have anything new to wear, he was soon filled with boredom. It is the clothes that make the penguin, he would often say. He had no time for his soldiers or his royal subjects. If anyone asked where the emperor was, the answer was nearly always, he is in his dressing room. And there he is trying on new robes, and he has clothes everywhere and wigs everywhere. He's all about how he looks. That's the most important thing to him. He has mirrors everywhere. He's all about how he looks and about his clothes. One day, two scoundrels came to town. They announced they were master weavers who could make a special magic cloth. Not only was it unusually beautiful, but it was completely invisible to those who were either dishonest or simple-minded. Now that was a rare thing indeed. All the penguins were very impressed, although none could afford the high prices that the weavers were asking. And here are the weavers in the town square, and they're telling everybody about their wonderful cloth that they can make that's invisible. And they're trying to get people to pay big prices for it. When the news of the magic cloth reached the Emperor Penguin, he thought, that is the thing for me. With a suit made of this cloth, I will be able to tell who is in my court and can be trusted, or who are the foolish ones. I must order some of this cloth at once. So the emperor commanded the weavers to make some of their special cloth for him. Large amounts of gold were paid to them, and they were given the finest silk thread with which to weave the cloth. Now remember, they're going to be weaving invisible cloth. So they've taken the money, they've taken the thread that he gave them, and let's see what they do with it. The scoundrels set up two huge weaving looms, but they kept the silk for themselves. They sat at the looms day and night, pretending to be very busy, though there was no thread on the machines at all. And here they are at the looms, pretending to be weaving cloth. After a time, the emperor wondered how his cloth was coming along, so he sent 3 trusted high officials to inspect it for him. So he's sending these 3 high officials go and inspect his cloth. The weavers greeted them with much excitement. See for yourselves, they exclaimed. The emperor's cloth is the most beautiful we've ever woven. But when the high officials looked at the looms, their beaks dropped. They could see nothing at all. The weavers pointed out fine details, the patterns here, the colors there. The high officials put on their spectacles, but they could not see a single thread. Is it possible that I'm dishonest or a simpleton? Said each one, thought to himself. Perhaps I'm not fit to be a high official. The emperor must never find out. So they put on their glasses, but they didn't see anything. But they didn't want anybody else to know they didn't see anything because they were afraid of losing their jobs. So one of them said, "Marvelous, such brilliant colors." And the other quickly added, "Yes, simply exquisite, glorious. We will tell the emperor how wonderful the cloth will be." The emperor was delighted to hear the good news and sent the weavers more gold and silk to finish their work. Again, they kept the silk for themselves and did no weaving at all. They were truly scoundrels. And these other high officials weren't too good either because they were telling a story. They didn't even see anything, and they were making up a story about it. Time passed, and the emperor grew impatient to see his cloth, so he decided to visit the weavers himself. He took with him his wisest advisors, including the 3 high officials who had been there before. When the emperor arrived at the shop, the weavers bowed low and invited everyone to inspect the looms. "Isn't this the most magnificent cloth you've ever seen?" they said proudly. And look, there's no cloth there. Let's see what they say. "Oh, yes," exclaimed the high officials. And one added, "Why, the colors are even more vivid than I remembered." Everyone else was speechless. They looked at the looms from every side and underneath as well, but no one could see even the tiniest of cloth. The emperor rubbed his eyes in disbelief. "Good heavens," he thought. "If the others can see the cloth, why can't I? Am I dishonest? Am I or simpleton? Simple-minded? This is terrible. No one must find out." So he thinks because they're all saying these things that it must be true, but he doesn't see it. But he doesn't want anybody to know that he doesn't see it. So he's going to go along with what they're saying, even though it's not true and he knows it. In the days that followed, the weavers could be seen busily cutting in the air with their scissors and stitching with empty needles and pretending to sew the buttons and the trim. The night before the parade, they burned extra candles endlessly so passerbyers would be sure to see how hard they were working. In the morning, the weavers hurried to the palace and announced, "The emperor's new clothes are ready. See, here is the jacket," said one, pretending to hold up the garment. "And here is the cape," said the other. And look, they have clothes hangers holding up nothing but pretending that they have the clothes. "Oh dear, I cannot see the clothes," said the emperor, "but everyone else can, so they must be there." The weavers helped him into the suit piece by piece. "A perfect fit," said one, "and most flattering colors," said the other. "Indeed," said the emperor, "these clothes are as light as a feather. Brr, it's even a draft in here." The penguins of the court were full of praise for the emperor's new clothes. The very height of fashion, they raved. Sensational, sheer perfection. And look, he has on no clothes, but they're acting like they see them. Trumpets sounded and the grand parade was underway. Everywhere penguins crowded the streets, waiting to see the emperor's new clothes. What a magnificent, stately procession it was. First came the soldiers and marching bands in splendid uniforms, followed by dancers and acrobats in colorful costumes. Then came the official penguins of the court in long flowing robes, and at last the emperor. He walked proudly, his beak held high, his royal train bearers pretending to carry the long cape. A hush fell over the crowd as he approached. Everyone stared in amazement. No one could see the emperor's clothes at all. But then a few penguins started to cheer and others joined in. No one wanted to be thought dishonest or simple-minded. "Look at the emperor's new clothes, how majestic he is," came the cries of admiration from every side. Everybody waved at the emperor, and the emperor waved back. Suddenly, a small voice rose from the crowd. "But look, the emperor isn't wearing any clothes." The voice came from a very young penguin. The penguin child spoke the truth, that he wasn't wearing any clothes. Some of the crowd stopped cheering as the penguin called out louder, "Can't you see? The emperor isn't wearing any clothes at all." Now the emperor heard him too, and he was shocked to hear such a thing. But soon others were repeating what the young penguin had said, first in whispers, then louder, until the whole crowd was shouting, "He's right! The emperor has no clothes!" The emperor's beak turned bright red, for he knew it must be true. And there he is with no clothes, and look, his beak turned bright red because he was so embarrassed. Now he could only march proudly on, his royal train bearers behind him carrying nothing at all. As for the scoundrels, they were never seen in the town again. And that's the end of that story. What lessons can we learn from this story? So many lessons. But I want to tell you that one lesson that you need to remember is to trust in yourself. When you know that something is true, or you know that you have the right idea, then stick with it. Believe in yourself and know that you're doing the right things. Also, be honest. Be honest with your friends. Be honest with other people. Now, do it in a tactful manner. Do it kindly and nicely, but be honest with them. That's what friends do. And speak up for truth and what is right and what is good, no matter if it's popular or not. Where do you find what is right and what is truth and what is good? Well, you can read your Bible, and that tells you what's true and right and good. Or you could ask yourself, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus say? How would he react or act in this situation? But always be yourself, realize that you're enough, and just be authentic, and don't try to be what somebody else wants you to be. Be yourself. God made you, and he makes good things. Until we meet again, I want you to smile and be happy. God bless. Write your own fairy tale. Bye-bye.